Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGig webinar series, our endeavor to impart techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow us as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is how to reduce root cause analysis time from days, hours to minutes using IBM SmartCloud Analytics log analysis. Our guest speaker today is Geeta Adinarayan, Practices Lead at IT Analytics at IBM India Private Limited. Geeta Adinarayan is a Senior Certified IT Specialist and a Performance Specialist from IBM. Currently, she works as Client Best Practices Lead for IT Analytics. Geeta has more than 14 years of IT experience. She has worked with large enterprise customers such as Bharti, Vodafone, HDFC Banks, KPIT, and Ericsson, among others. Geeta's 7 series blog on performance engineering is one of the best viewed blogs. She has presented in a number of conferences and is the go-to person for any questions related to performance of web-based solutions and IT analytics. She is a recipient of Women Achiever Award for India Southern Region by CII. She completed her BS in Information Technology from BITS Pilani. So without further delay, I introduce you all to a guest speaker. Over to you, Geeta. Geeta, there's no sound coming from your end.
Hello. Mohini, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay. Sorry for this glitch, team.
You can start
Okay,
now.
so I can continue now, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
you can
great.
start.
Thank you. So team, for next 30 minutes or so, I will quickly walk you through the content that's as part of the presentation. We will also spend 10-15 minutes in seeing live demo in terms of how product can be installed, how it can be used, and how it can in turn give you the value of reducing the time taken for problem determination from hours to minutes. So for most of you, it may not be a surprise when you get a call saying that, hey, see, I'm not able to access an application. In this example specifically, let's take a use case. Manju is the doctor. He is trying to retrieve patient data in a system, but it is very slow. And he complains about it to its customer service department. And Ram, who is the owner for this application, now needs to figure out what's going wrong. Now here I've given an example of an healthcare app, but this is something that we witness on a daily basis. For example, you wouldn't be surprised if you go to a website and you find the website slow. You wouldn't be surprised you go to a customer center of a telco and they say, sir, please hold on because system is not responding. You may find something similar to it when you go to malls. It's something that many of us witness. And who is responsible for knowing what is happening here? It's most often the guy who runs the IT, the people who manage the IT. And in our case, we are taking Ram as an example. Now, what is that Ram can do now? He knows that there is a problem, but he doesn't really know where the problem is and what is the root cause of the problem. Now, let's look at some of the challenges Ram faces as he starts to do what we call as root cause analysis or problem determination. Most often, some of these mission critical applications runs in large data centers. It is not something that you deploy on one server or on a couple of servers. You could have multiple servers, you could have multiple middleware applications providing single service to user. And all of these components, whether it is hardware, whether it is software like middleware or application, does generate a lot of data. Now, in addition to it, you may have some of the monitoring platforms or products that runs on top of your application to know the health of the system, to know if the SLAs are met, and those also generate a lot of data. So if you really look at the middle bar where we talk about different types of data that a data center can generate, it can vary from code files, log files, traces, events, metrics to even config data, transaction data. Now, all of this data is something that's available. Now, then the question can be, it is available, so what? The challenge really is, how do we use this data to derive information that is necessary to find the root cause of a problem? Now, why at all we do talk about this data? We talk about this data because the amount of data is huge. This definitely is in the domain of big data. And if you look at some of the facts, a typical enterprise with 5,000 servers running approximately 125 apps can generate close to 1.3 terabytes of data per day. And interestingly, only 3% of this data is the metric data, things like your utilization, things like response times, things like events and alarms. The rest of the data, which is 97% of the data, is what is unstructured or semi-structured data. Examples of this would be your logs, your traces, your dumps, your config details, anything that comes in the form of a text. And given this large amount of data, which is 1.3 terabytes, and if you look at 97% of that data being semi-structured data, it is almost humanly impossible to go and look at all of it to figure out what is going wrong. So the question may be, okay, we understand there's a lot of data. Do we really need to look into it? Does it really contain anything useful? It does. It does contain a lot of useful information like health of the application, the transaction details, even error indications in terms of warnings or errors. So there's wealth of information that is hidden in this data, and it is important that it is leveraged in order to identify what is going wrong. Now, given that RAM is asked to look into this data that is large and of different types, does have a lot of important information, he can do a number of things with this data. And IBM does have capabilities which can address things like capacity optimization, predictive analytics, faster problem resolution, and also improved insight. In this presentation, we are going to go deeper on how this data can be leveraged specifically for doing faster problem resolution. So how is that is made possible for users like RAM? So using a product which is new product released by IBM in June, which is IBM SmartCloud Analytics and log analysis. What RAM can do is he can put all of this information in one place. The information generated by data center could be metrics, it could be tickets, it could be logs, it could be support documents, or it could even be the transaction status that's coming in from the application DB. So he can put all of this information together and see it in the context of a problem and figure out what is going wrong. Along with it, he can also understand what are the possible solutions to the problem in hand. So let us see how RAM can do this. So the first and foremost thing RAM will do is to, or administrator of the product will do, is to start pushing all the data from an application to a central server, which is log analytics server in this case. So there are multiple options that are made available to customers in order to push this data. They can either push it using agents like Logfile Agent. They can write their own code and leverage the API interfaces that product provides in order to push the data. We also support the agentless mechanism for pulling log data into IBM Log Analytics server. So using any of this supported mechanism, logs and other IT data can be pushed into IBM Log Analytics server. So everything is in one place now. In real case problem determination, you wouldn't be surprised if days, 1 day, 2 days, or even 3 days is spent in just pulling the important information from different servers in the production system. So automating this actually reduces a lot of time that is taken as part of problem determination cycle. So once all the information is in one place, RAM can now get on to searching this information for getting insights as to what is going wrong, where it is going wrong, when it happened, what is the most common error, when did it start happening, right? So he can ask number of questions and he can start getting answers to those questions in the form of doing search on this data that he collected in the previous slide as you saw before. So essentially this is like Google kind of a search platform, but search for IT data that's coming in from your data center. It could be from your operating system, it could be from your middleware, it could be from your application, or it could even be from any of the ticketing systems or monitoring platform that you have. And once the data is available, you can slice and dice that information to know which was the most common error as you're seeing in the graph on the slide. Now, how was all this made possible? As I mentioned in previous slides, most of the data that we get from data center is unstructured data. We need to make meaning out of this data because it's essentially a stream of characters that's coming into the system. So we apply text analytics, which is essentially extracting relevant or required information from the stream of characters that is coming in, give a meaning to it or annotate it and store that information under that annotation. In this example, as you see, we have got a character stream that is coming in to the system And we've identified those 8 character numbers, or a string made up of 8 characters as thread ID. And we have also identified what is error code. And those two would be extracted, and those would be put under those specific columns. So you can go and make an analysis like, tell me what this particular thread did. You can also make analysis such as, tell me the breakup of error code that happened in this particular application log over a period of time. So let's say Ram did a search on application logs. He found an error. Again, I'm going to take an example. Let's say he found an error called connection timeout exception error. Now, immediately his next natural step is, why did that connection timeout happen? I need to link this error code with some of the metric data or some of the utilization data that I'm getting from some of the monitoring tools. So monitoring tools could be ITM, ITCAM, or any others that you're using for monitoring resource utilization. So using this offering from IBM, Ram can go link the error code or link this unstructured log data with some of the structured metrics like CPU utilization or thread pool utilization or connection pool utilization, and correlate instantaneously using a couple of clicks. Important note here is that in order to do this, Ram doesn't have to go and take all the data from these monitoring tools and index that in the system. Instead, we do federation, which means we execute APIs in order to pull data from that particular system. It could be an API or it could be an SQL depending on the data source. Pull that information and display it in the context of the problem in hand. Now Ram knows what is going wrong. He knows what is going wrong both from logs and from the metrics that he has been collecting. Now using this context again, both together, he wants to now know, okay, for this problem, what is the possible solution? Now in most of the enterprises, people do have operational procedures, they do have FAQs, or they do at least have information in the form of emails or things written in notepad which says, for this type of a problem, go and take this kind of apply this type of a solution. Or in many cases, people do take specific error codes. They go to Google and they search to see, did anybody else find something similar? If they found something similar, what did they do? So all of this again can be automated, and it can be made to happen from a single console, which is IBM Log Analytics product. And you can go and search saying, for this error code, for this combination of error codes, was there any known solution? If yes, what is it? So you can get not only problem context, but you can also get into possible solutions for a problem in hand. Now let's say Ram is the one who has seen connection timeout exception multiple times. He knows what to do about it. What he can do is to use that knowledge that SMEs have developed over a period of time, which could be years, months, or whatever is the time frame, but embed that knowledge in the form of insight packs within the product. So IBM Log Analysis product gives you a framework using which you can start putting in the knowledge that you had gathered over a period of time. Essentially what you can do is create insight packs so that it can be reused by others. But if somebody else has already written insight packs, then you can take and reuse them. So let's see what kind of insight packs are available today for customers to use. So Ram can use WAS or DB2 insight pack that's available today. He can go and visualize what is coming in from WebSphere and DB2 logs in a graphical manner. So quickly he can identify what is going wrong, or what is really causing the problem. One can also write what we call as custom applications, essentially something that's built on top of the platform to go and embed specific custom logic. Now here is an example of anomaly detection app, which again is being developed within IBM. And the anomaly detection app can tell you what was the variance of events that was coming into the system. So you definitely want to look into the events that had high variance versus something that has been consistent throughout. So this is just one example of an application, but users or teams who are SMEs in a specific field can write insight packs or custom applications based on the knowledge that they have had. For example, some of our own business partners are working with IBM in building insight packs for other applications such as Oracle apps or for Microsoft applications. So in summary, using IBM log analysis, you get option to upload multiple types of data. You get various options to do this. Using the platform, you can search the massive amount of log files that are there. You can link that log data with any other structured data. Structured data could be your tickets, your events, or your metrics data. You can also get expert guidance, given that you have this knowledge stored in some form or the other. You can also start getting trends and anomalies on top of the data that you are putting into the system. We are also working towards providing automated monitoring for known patterns. For example, you may want to know when connection timeout exception happens in WebSphere log. At the same time, do I get any deadlocks in DB2? So you can set these patterns and you can search for these patterns on a continuous basis. This is something that's in plan for the next versions to come. And we also provide an extension to product using which SMEs or content developers or business partners can start building insight packs, and that can be used by any customer who is using the product. Now these are the types of log files we have tested. So we do provide what we call as out-of-the-box content pack, which means we understand different parts of the log line that's coming in, and we are able to interpret it, and we are able to convert that from unstructured data to structured data. For other logs such as Oracle logs or WebSphere MQ logs, we provide what we call as the generic connotation, which means we can identify generic concepts like IP address, host names, key value pairs, and any other interesting concepts. We will go through an example of this when we go through the demo. So if you have any log file, the first check that you need to do is to see if there is an out-of-the-box content pack available for that log type. If it is not available, is generic connotation good to go with? If generic connotation is not sufficient for you, then you may have to write an insight pack to support the log file. This product does interact and integrate with number of other products, some both within IBM and outside IBM. For example, as I was mentioning, you can link the log data with the metrics data. Metrics data can come from any monitoring solution. So it's the case with event management solutions where you could bring in events from these systems and analyze those events within log analytics platform. The other way is you could have a pattern being detected from a set of log files, and that can be alerted as an event and sent to event management system. If you have topology detail of a service or an application, you can use that information to build topology within SmartCloud Analytics system. And interestingly, you can also use that topology to determine what are the sequence of searches that you need to do in a meaningful way in order to get down to the root cause of the problem. Finally, you can also import ticket data, and you can do analysis on ticket data and also link it with all other forms of IT data that is coming into the system using this particular capability. In terms of product roadmap, the product was EGA'd in June. It is available for trial and buy currently. Now, one of the very salient feature of this product is it is designed to install within 10 minutes. In fact, I'll show you the demo of how quickly it can be installed. So you can install, start doing data collection or pushing your log files and start doing searches in a matter of 1 hour. In fact, lesser than that. So essentially, the first workgroup edition is built for providing quick value to customers, and it can support up to 20 GB of data digestion or ingestion per day. We're currently working on providing enterprise scalability, and we're also working on tighter integration with some of our own monitoring and event management solutions. We're also looking forward to providing more content and insight packs, and also tooling to enable insight pack development as we are looking forward. There's also works in terms of how we can leverage some of the open source data collection frameworks and products that's there in market today, such as Logstash. In terms of product usage, if you're a new user, the usage is as simple as download, install, upload your log file and start searching. Install some of the insight packs and start seeing your log data in the form of a dashboard. So instead of, you have both formal info centers that you can refer to. We're also providing quick usage guide similar to the flowchart that you're seeing here, which can guide you in terms of what to do after what. And we also have good how-to videos, which are 3 minutes to 5 minutes videos that you can leverage to install and try this product. Now, in terms of architecture, the product is built on IBM Big Data Platform. The Big Data Platform is not something new. It's been in market, has been processing large volumes of data. So one of the unique features of IBM Log Analytics product is it's built on top of this Big Data Platform, which is proven, which can take in large volumes of data. And using this platform, we have built logic on top of it, which can integrate both structured and unstructured data, as you saw from the previous slides that I went through. It is designed for extensibility, which means both IBM and partners can leverage their expertise, and they can build that expertise in the product in the form of insight packs. And we also provide options where you can deploy Log Analytics product either as a standalone version, where you push logs of one application into the product, or if you want it as a shared service, you can push logs from multiple applications into the same product, and then have one Log Analytics instance supporting multiple applications. So in turn, again, starting from the case where Ram was to analyze what is going wrong, where is the value is getting from? Is getting the value in terms of reducing the time it takes for collecting data, in terms of time it takes for analyzing that data, in terms of time it takes for correlating that with any form of other structured or unstructured data. So faster problem determination isolation is first value. It's not only knowing what is the root cause, but it is also about knowing what are the potential solutions to the problem, which is where the repair portion comes into picture. So by doing all of this, you are essentially can achieve two things. One is quickly get the service back into action. So you're reducing the time for which your service is not available or the downtime. The second one is reduce the time that you spend in terms of collecting and analyzing, which means operational efficiency is something you're gaining, and operational efficiency also means savings to the cost that you are spending for doing the application management work or for doing the problem determination work. And the third one is the skill. Given that SMEs can embed their knowledge in the form of insight packs, you can achieve consistent methods for problem determination, and also you can achieve reuse, and thereby you can get this being used by most of your team in the organization. Before I move into customer studies, I would like to start off with the install on the demo portion. While the install goes on for 5-7 minutes, we will cover the customer case studies. So what I have done is I have downloaded the tar form of our product, and as you can see, it's around 888 MB. In fact, little lesser than that because I've already unzipped it. And what I'm going to do is to do the console mode of installation, so you do not have to have any X Windows platform to do. You can use the console mode. So install can be done with simple command, as you see here, and it gives you a couple of options. Here I'm going to choose both installation manager and the SmartCloud Analysis product for installation. I'm going to accept the license agreement, and then I'm going to say next because it says install both of these. I'm going to choose the default directories to install, and I'm saying OK to both the products chosen. And there are a couple of ports that are required by the product. I'm going to go and select all the default ports. Most of it should be applicable to you unless there is some port that's blocked by the firewall. Specifically this 9987 because that is the one through which you will access the server. So all the configs done. I didn't have to leave anything. If you want to change the installation directory, you can do so. But here I did choose the default directory. So I'm going to go click install. So it's going to take us 5 minutes before the installation completes. So I'm going to go back to the customer case studies, finish that, and come back here. So in terms of who have used the product, we had a healthcare provider, and they had the challenge of having a lot of sources of data. So they had both metrics data, they had data from their IX systems, they had data from their apps, they had data from MQCDs, they had data from Oracle. So bringing all of this together and doing a correlation was a time-consuming job for them. So what they did was to upload all of those data into IBM Log Analysis product, using which they could reduce the time that they took for root cause analysis of the problem. They leveraged both the event data and log data they had, and using this, even the skills that was required to diagnose the problem were saved, and essentially they could repeat the same model for different problems that came in. So the other case study is IBM internal case study. Now IBM does run its own IT shop. They do host number of business critical applications. So here was a team who was hosting close to 12 applications, and they were not able to look into logs because looking into logs of all 12 applications, which in turn is sitting on multiple servers, which runs multiple middleware applications, OS, etc., was laborious. So what they did was to go for log analytics platform. They started streaming in their log file. Now they have good visibility onto what is going on in these 12 applications, and they're able to proactively inform the application development team saying, hey, see, I'm getting these warnings, I'm getting these errors from these particular application logs. Can you go fix it, or is it because of the change that you did, right? So they are now able to be proactive about what was happening in this IT data versus ignoring them because they couldn't spend that amount of time. Now with IBM Log Analytics, they're able to get down to knowing what went wrong for one application in a couple of clicks within 5 minutes. And their target is to go to 30 minutes for 12 applications compared to what it would have taken them 7 to 8 days. So real saving in terms of, real saving in terms of operational cost, real saving in terms of proactively knowing if something went wrong and if your customers were impacted, and real improvement in terms of application uptime as well. So the product, as I said, is available for trial and exploring, and you can go and download the product from here. We also have a wealth of information in terms of videos, in terms of how to document formal info centers, and also forums that you can leverage to make use of this product. So let us go back and see how is our install doing. Okay, so we're almost there. So while we wait for a couple of more minutes for installation to go through, I also wanted to quickly walk you through the other resources that are available. So this is the landing page for the product. If you click on the link that I showed in this slide, you will come here. And as you see, you do have Wiki and you do have forums that you can make use of. Specifically under Wiki, you have good contents in terms of how to do specific steps, and some of the flowcharts that I showed you, which were the usage flowcharts, those details do come from this wiki. So you have good FAQs, you have good how-tos on how to install, how to upload data, how to do a prerequisite check, and number of these. Okay. So I'm going to continue with the next part of the demo that I had instead of waiting for install to complete, and we'll come back when it happens. So I'm going to take a system where the installation is already complete. We've already uploaded some of the data, and we're going to do searches or analysis on top of that data to see how this product can be leveraged and used. So as I mentioned to you during the presentation, this is more like a Google for IT data. And for the demo purposes, we have loaded some of the sample log files here. And these sample log files come from WebSphere and DB2. We also have MQ logs and Oracle logs loaded. Now, as you see here, it is not just the log. You can associate a log to a service topology. In our case, we have associated with the service topology of a day trader sample application. You can go and search on any of these logs, and you can determine for which duration you want to do the analysis, and for that duration, you can go do a search on top of it. So to start with, I'm going to go and do a quick search on WebSphere log file. Given that it is the old log that I have loaded, I'm going to select last year as the time period. And I'm going to search to see all that happened in this particular log file. Okay. So meanwhile, the installation is complete here. So I'm going to finish the installation. And as you see here, this is not more than 10 minutes that it took for installing the product. And once the installation is successful, you can load the sample scenarios. So you do not have to go and search for log files to load them. We do bundle it along with the product. So let me show you how you can load the sample scenario. So this is the directory where product was installed, as you see here. And I'm going to go to a directory called sample scenarios. That's where sample scenarios are present. And with the single command, you can create sample scenarios, which creates all the linkings, and it also uploads the log files that are required. So as you see here, we are creating set of artifacts such as collections, which are collection of log files. We're also creating what we call as log source, which is a link to specific log file on a specific server. And once these two are available, you can start loading log files into those artifacts. And we are doing this for two of the sample log file, one that came in from WebSphere and the other one that came in from DB2. So as you saw, within 1 minute, you could load the sample data, and you are now ready for doing the analysis as we were doing before. And once you create the sample scenario, you also get quick searches, which is essentially the search that you did here. But you saved it so that you do not have to go and search or select the log sources. and the time frame again and again. So you can save it, and the saved searches will be available once you load the sample scenario. You can leverage them to do any further search. Now, given that we did a search on WebSphere data, you can see what were the log lines coming in. And interestingly, you can also see what was really extracted from this log file using text analytics. So it extracted what was the message classifier. You can see that most of it was J2CA. And if you look at Java exception grouping, connection timeout seems to be the predominant one. And if you look at the breakup of errors and warnings, you will see that there were more errors than the optional messages. So instead of looking at all log lines, you may want to just look at only the errors that was coming in. And that can be done just by clicking on what was available under the configured pattern and do a search on top of it. You can see that it was filtered now, filtered based on the severity. And you can use the grid view that is available, and the previous one that you were seeing was the list view. Using grid view, you can start doing a lot of slicing and dicing. For example, I can create chart which says, give me a pie chart on all the message IDs that came in, and you can change the type of the chart on the fly, and you can, depending on the data that you have. And as you see here, most of the message classifiers were of J2CA 25. Now you can also do a lot of other analysis, like which thread gave this error or what a specific thread was doing by going and filtering for those data. For example, I can say, tell me all that this particular thread did. So I'm going to search for that particular thread and look into logs for only that particular thread. And now I can see what is this particular thread doing over a period of time. Now, given that there are a lot of connection timeout exceptions happening, the next natural question becomes, what was causing this exception? Was that load, or was that any problems in database? So in order to do that, it is essential that you correlate log files from WebSphere and with what is coming in from database. So I'm going to do a time-based correlation among WebSphere log and DB2 log using the time-based correlation that's available here. So essentially what I'm doing is the cross log file search. So if you would have done it manually, you would have opened two telnet windows, you would have opened two different log files, you would have grepped for a specific timestamp, and manually you would have correlated to see what happened after what. Instead, you can do that using a couple of clicks here. So as you see, you are seeing both WebSphere and the DB2 log files line in line, and you can clearly see that there was a connection timeout exception around 448.4, and you can also sort on the timeline, which I'll show you soon. But you also know at this near time frame, there was also a deadlock exception that came in the DB2 log file. And so time-based correlation becomes very easy using this product, and this can be done with any number of log files that you have. So in the examples that you saw now, both for WebSphere and DB2, we did use out-of-the-box annotation, which means we knew what to extract from log files. But you may have log files for which we do not have these annotations available, in which case you can use what we call as generic annotator or the generic parser. So let me show you what the generic annotator can do for example, Oracle log file. So as you see here, the Oracle log file, we did not have to write any parser. We did not have to write any annotation. We uploaded the log file. The product did discover number of patterns automatically using the generic rules that is inbuilt. And another option you also get as part of this is the free text search. For example, if I want to know how many times Oracle was shut down, I can search for that data and see for how many times Oracle was shut down. And based on whatever you enter, you do get the generic annotator going and finding more patterns on top of it. For example, you know that now there were 15 instances of shutdown in this log file. Similarly, you can apply generic annotator for your web logs, your MQ logs, your application logs, any other logs which has timestamp. So far, we have been using log file, we have been doing ad hoc searches in order to know what is really going wrong. And we are putting things together to come to a conclusion on what is the root cause of the problem. But it may be easier if you see most of this data in a form of a dashboard. So I'm going to give you an example of, show you an example of WebSphere dashboard, which is visualization on top of the WebSphere log that we saw just now. So instead of going and searching to say, tell me only errors, you can see that in a visual form. You know that there was something wrong and therefore the count of errors were high here. You also know what were the message classifiers that came in for this particular time period. And you also know the exceptions that came in. So visually you very clearly now know that it is something related to connection timeout in one click versus doing a couple of searches on the log files as we did before. Now the other beauty of this is not something that is static. You can go and configure it to show charts that are important to you, that are important to your team and organization. So you could say, show me response time in one chart, show me errors in another chart, show me my utilization data in another chart. So you can build your own dashboard that is of important to your organization. So now these dashboards doesn't have to essentially work only with log data. As I was telling before, it can pull in data from your database as well. So here is an example of an app which pulls the data from, so I can't show it now, but it can pull the data from your database and display it to you for giving insight on what is coming in from your application database. So to go back to our presentation, net, what we saw was how you can leverage different forms of data, different types of data that is available in data center, pull that together, analyze them, link them as needed in order to get to what is going wrong. You can also use this information even to know that, okay, everything is going fine, I don't see any errors, that's fine too. But it gives you real quick glimpse of this large big data that is available and to use it in a matter of minutes versus spending days and hours to collect and analyze it. So that is pretty much what I had for the presentation and demo. I think we are good to take questions. So I do see a couple of questions that are there, so let me go over one by one. There's a question from Priyan which says, will this also cover integration services? So Priyan, do you want to quickly elaborate a little more on what you mean by integration services? While we wait for Priyan, let me take another question. So there is a question from a user called SANP. What is the difference between Splunk and this tool? Can you please tell me? So Splunk mainly focuses on log collection and most of the manual searches that you do on top of it. There are a couple of unique features that IBM log analysis has compared to Splunk. One of them, as you saw, it is not just about problem determination, but also knowing what form of advice is available to solve the problem. So expert advice is something unique in the product. And the second one is also things like custom map, which is for anomaly detection, which is for topology-based searches, text analytics, all of them are something unique. So it does log collection, log analysis, and also analytics on top of it. So there's another question from Vignesh. The question is whether these logs are acquired from the system logs or through the logs recorded through third-party plugins. Now, if you're direct, you can acquire it from system logs. There are a couple of options to do this data collection. So you can either have an agent that sits on the system and push the log files into log analytics server. But if you want to go agentless option, you can even pull it using the agentless option we provide. You can also use some of the third-party or open source options like Logstash in order to do data pushing or to pump data into log analytics product. Okay, so let me see the next one. So there's a question which is from Chandra, who's asking what should be the process for segregating unstructured data. So I'm taking this question as how do you analyze unstructured data when you mean by segregation of data? So this is a very good question because as I mentioned, the data that you get in is unstructured data which is in the form of character stream. In order to understand, we apply what is called as text analytics. So what we essentially do is text analytics does is extracting relevant information. Now, as soon as I say extraction, one may think, why can't I write regular expressions in languages like Perl for extracting data? Now that becomes a very simple form. For example, if I get an 8-character numbers and if I can do a regular expression for it, any 8-character does not mean it's a thread ID. It has to come next to timestamp and then only it's thread ID. So you can do sequencing, you can put tokens together using the text analytics engine and the language called AQL. That is what is leveraged by the product. And using this, we write information to say this is the way you will parse or you will segregate data and convert that data into structured data. There's another question from Vignesh. Can I use this tool to analyze logs from routers and switches? Any log file which is in text which has timestamps, you can analyze those in this particular product. So there's another question from Rahul. How to upload log files and okay, I think this question is already answered. There's another from Anirudh. Access logs are referred to web server logs or something else. So access logs are HTTP server logs. There's another question from Anirudh. Can we also add web server log based upon our requirement? Any logs which you think is important for problem determination, you can upload it. So the sequence in which you will do is, first you will see if this log file has any default out-of-the-box support. If yes, you will use it. If not, you can use generic annotation. If that is not sufficient, you can get into writing your own insight pack in order to understand that log file. Okay. So there's another question. I think this is from Abhijit Das. The question is, for custom applications where the logger generates log entries in a custom format, does Scala allow specifying by the user on the fly what to read in the log entry to annotate, and then how it is linked with the log entry in next component example database? It does support custom formats. As I said, anything that has timestamp is allowed. Now, can users specify or annotate it on the fly? We do not have the GUI support to do it yet, but you can write in the form of AQLs to annotate those log files. But most often you may not even to go there, given that generic annotator can support it. Now, how do you link it with data that's coming in from DB, etc.? For that, you need to write currently what we call a custom map, which specifies what log we need to link it with, what database, or any other form of data that's coming in. There's a question from Sneha. Can this tool be used for sudden unexpected Windows/Linux server crashes to find out what exactly went wrong? Now, when the server crashes, if you have logs up to that minute available that was coming into the log file system, into log analytics server, you can get some clue. But one thing that we need to remember is the moment server crashes, you really don't have any access to the info that's there on that system. So until the server crashed, if you want to look into what really took server to the crashing situation, it is possible. Once server crashes, you won't have access to any of the data that's coming in. But one good thing that here you need to remember is, in a case where you were not pushing data into log analytics server, when the server crashed, you have nothing to really start analyzing. But in this case, until the point when it went on, you do have that data available in log analytics server, which you can leverage to see what is that was happening just before it crashed. There's a question from Sandeep. Is there a way for the log analyzer to listen to the logs on the move? So I'm assuming this is a question where you're asking, can logs, as and when they are generated, can that be pushed into log analytics server? Answer is yes. And that's the mode we suggest to be applied in production, because as and when it's available, you want it to be available for analysis. There's a question from Anna Sahib, which says log analytics application are supported to the Windows-based application. I don't know if the question is to say, is log analytics server supported on Windows platform? If that's the question, no. Currently, it's supported on Linux. RHEL is where it runs on. We do provide appliance, which is VMware images, that you can use and run this product on top of Windows. So that's essentially for trial mode. If you want to use it for production purposes, you will have to use it on Linux platform. There's a question from Lakshman. How far can it be used for Microsoft technologies? Any platform that generates logs, if it has timestamp, you can start analyzing that using log analytics platform. There's another question from Ahmad which asks, what kind of root cause analysis is easily done by this product, or what are some of the ideal problems where it should be used? So the real ideal situation is you have an outage, you now need to go and figure out what's going wrong. And instead of going and pulling log files manually and correlating with your metrics data, the suggestion is to start streaming in this data into log analytics product and start searching and leveraging it to get to the root cause. So if you really look at tracing, you will start off with log collection. So essentially start pushing your important logs and metrics into log analytics server. Once it's available, start doing searches as and when problem happens, or even otherwise to know what is the kind of pattern that you get. Based on it, you can build custom insight packs or leverage that is already written, which can be used in real problem situations. Okay, so there's another question from Rahul, how to upload the log files into the tool. I think we addressed it. There are multiple options. You can either use the agent or agentless mechanism, or even you can copy and run a command to upload files into the system. Okay, so there's a question saying, I find only Linux in the URL provided for trial download. Is this product available for Windows platform? Currently no, but shortly you will see VMware images on the same website. You can download and run it on Windows platform using any of the VM players. Okay, I think we have addressed most of the questions that was there. Okay. Okay, there's another question. Is there a way to integrate Tomcat logs into log analytics, into the log analyzer? This question I think is from, I missed the person who asked this question, but the answer is yes, you can use Tomcat logs in the log analyzer. And the way to go about it is to use generic annotator and index those log files. There's another question from Rajiv on how does licensing work per device waste. The licensing here works based on the total volume of data that you will use for searching. For example, if you have, let's say for 5 days, if you have 20 GB of data or 100 GB of data, and that's what is the time frame for which you're going to search, you're going to pay for 20 GB of data. Now you may have peak periods and you may get 10 GB of data in a day, but you can play with what we call as retention time. So essentially you can shrink the time period for which you will do the search and still continue to use license for same 20 GB of data, versus some of the players in the market who charge for the amount of data you index per day.
Geeta, please resize the questions window. You'd be able to see all the questions clearly. I think you're not able to see the questions.
Oh, okay.
You need to
Yeah,
undock this window and then you need to resize that window.
Okay. So I do see questions now. Let me close this. Okay, now what do? I expand it, is it? But it went back.
Yeah, there's this undock pane from control panel button on this questions window. You need to click on that, and then you need to resize it using by dragging the edges.
Oh, okay, okay. Thank you very much. I really was studying through this. Okay. Good. Thank you so much. Okay, I think we kind of did most of them. Splunk we did. Any other questions that is unanswered?
You can check in the questions window. All the questions that have come, I have assigned those questions to you there
Yeah,
only.
yeah. I'm just doing. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So I think the one that we did not answer is, can we add .xml files as log files? Currently, the generic annotator does not support XML files, but there are some work that's going on in terms of annotating those also. Should be able to do that in future versions, but not as of today. There's another question from Lalit which asks, can it give display generic common solution on the causes? Yes, definitely yes. For example, that is the purpose for which the insight packs are designed. So using insight packs, you should be able to say, for this type of a problem, this is the solution, or this is the, if you see this symptom, for example, if you see connection timeout and if you see deadlock, if the version of WebSphere and DB2 is so and so, then you probably need to go and change the isolation levels that you have set on WebSphere database data source. This is possible, as I said, in the form of insight pack. Can it be used for performance issues? That is the question from Kalyan. Yes, it can. It can be used. But again, to remember is, if you start using the workgroup addition, the SMA needs to be aware of what all to be searched for and in what sequence to get on to a point where you know what is going wrong. Given that you've asked about performance, let me take an example. You may be looking at WebSphere system.log files. You want to know what is the sequence of activity a thread did. Let's assume that application was writing things like timestamps when it called a specific function. If that is available, you can go into a thread mode filtering and you can see all the activities that was done by a thread, and you can look at the difference in time to know where predominant amount of time was spent. So Mohini, looks like we have addressed most of the questions. I'm doing a quick scan through again to see if anything came in at the end. Now I think we have covered most of the questions here.
Well, thank you so much for answering all the questions, Geeta. Thanks for the insightful presentation as well. It was a great session. I would also like to
Thank you so
thank
much.
all
Thank you,
our
Jane.
I would also like to thank all our participants for the support in making this webinar a success. The recording of this session would be available on techgig.com by evening. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.